AI-only shopping is coming, and it's coming soon. And AI will be able to browse websites and purchase products based on the user's ask and preferences. It'll be fully automated, and the winners will be those websites who are informationally accessible to the LLMs, and they have comprehensive answers to the questions that the users are searching for. It's the sites that who are fully connected, and in conjunction with this, those sites who demonstrate an exceptional AI-enabled experience they'll be the winners. Traffic from AI assistants to retail websites surged 4,700% year over year in July 2025, and that's according to Adobe Analytics, who are tracking over 1 trillion visits to retail sites. And meanwhile, 77% of Gen Z are using TikTok for their product discovery, according to eMarketer, and 43% are starting product searches on TikTok rather than Google, according to Connect Media. We know that 70% of Gen Z are using AI tools for shopping already, and 62% prefer visual search over any other retail technology. So this is a very different way of searching and interacting with websites compared to what we millennials are used to. So your website was designed for millennials who typed keywords into Google, and Gen Z don't really do that keyword-based searching. I'm going to delve into this in a bit of detail. So they have conversations, they upload screenshots, and they tap a microphone. And when they land on your site, and see a hamburger menu, and a category tree, then they're going to leave, essentially. So users form an opinion on your website in about 50 milliseconds, and 88% won't come back after a bad experience on average. The question isn't really how do we market to Gen Z? The question is how or why does our website still speak a language that they don't use? So I'm going to share a few slides that or infographics I've pulled together. So just share my screen. Right. So this is essentially the difference. So millennials, what we did, we would search for the item that we're looking for, having already done our research to figure out which item it is that we need. And so while we both probably start with I'm trying to fit tubeless tires to my mountain bike, we've gone through the process of understanding what that process is, which products we need of those products. What we're doing our own research, essentially looking at articles, looking at reviews, comparing things. So by the time we get to Google, we're already typing a product name that we know. So we're browsing categories, we're comparing, we're filtering, we're deciding what it is we want through that keyword-based search. Whereas Gen Z is very much asking a question. They're having a conversation. So I'm trying to fit tubeless tires onto my mountain bike. And they're describing that to AI chat, they're describing it to TikTok or a voice assistant, and they're expecting instant relevant results from that query. It's a very different way of searching to our kind of traditional research-based method. So this is why Gen Z discoverers are fundamentally different from millennial researchers. And the navigation menu is leaking your most valuable future customers, essentially. It's one of the key friction points, and I'm going to get into why. So I'm going to talk about how you can rebuild your site around intent and conversations rather than just categories as well. If you're finding this useful, so we do a weekly newsletter with similar breakdowns on the data and strategy side, built for DTC marketing leaders. I'm going to drop the link into the chat now. Cool. And so let's talk about why your site speaks the wrong language for Gen Z. So there is a generational mismatch here between researchers and discoverers. So let me just bring up that. So everyone has built their sites for this researcher, essentially. So they find you through Google search or Google ad, and then they're using keywords in their searches. So they're typing tire levers, they're browsing categories, comparing, filtering, deciding on site, and actually going through your categories to figure out what it is that they need, what best suits their purpose. Whereas the modern discoverer, it's very much it's a different experience. They found you on TikTok or YouTube Shorts or AI chat, and so they've been heavily influenced by the source that they came from. Now, this has pros and cons because it actually means that they're a lot further down that funnel. So they already know what product it is they're looking for, and they've come to your site for it. I'll get into some stats around that afterwards. 20 billion in TikTok shop sales was in 2026, and we had 56% of Gen Z are social media buyers. 190% higher TikTok discovery rate for Gen Z as well. There are significant stats there in terms of what they're buying and selling. I'm just going to change the layout slightly so you can see me as well. There we go. So yeah, so the numbers behind the shift, yeah, like they are significant, and the old versus the new is a particular turning point. So in the past, you would have walked into a shop. We're going back sort of 20 years or so. You would have walked into a shop and you would have been walked up to a customer service representative as a confused customer. You're not sure what it is you need. You explain your problem. They explain that they have a product that fits your problem and kind of how to use it. And so you walk away with that product. You're very happy that your challenge is going to be solved. They also probably upsold you as a part of that process. So it's an entire experience around kind of real customer service there. So there was no browsing of categories. The expert gave you exactly what you need. And the thing is, e-commerce removed those experts and replaced them with menus and keyword-based search and pagination and hamburger menus and that sort of thing. So, and filters. So it works when the customers know exactly what they want, so they can use those keywords. But it breaks completely when the customers are trying to describe their problems or they don't really know what it is that they need. Which is fine for millennials because we're quite happy to go and do that research. But for Gen Z, their way they use the tech is significantly different, as we see in the stats. So they want the shop assistant back. Essentially, they just want it on their phone. So yeah, so your new competitor is essentially this AI black box where they're asking the questions directly. And this is my wonderful mock-up. I'll show you a real one in a second. But essentially, they're able to do the things that enable them to get their answers. So they can ask the follow-up questions to ChatGPT itself. But the challenge is that when it's the other way around, the AI doesn't know to ask them the questions in a lot of cases. There is a lot of customer service knowledge that will be within your organization around how to get the right product for a customer. And that doesn't necessarily translate into these large language models like ChatGPT and Gemini and such, because they've been designed to be generic experts on everything. They haven't really been honed into one particular customer service route. So it doesn't know to ask follow-up questions or to better assess the ask from the user like a good rep would. It doesn't always get the correct product. It could recommend competitor products alongside yours. You have very little control over that. There is ways to influence it by making sure you're creating the right content and comprehensive content that kind of answers the type of questions that are going to be asked, and actually looking at what questions are being asked using tools like Profound or SEMrush. But yeah, so it's suggesting competitor products. There's no upsells of additional product lines, and you have very little control over what it says about your brand. That said, it is a good avenue for discovery. It speaks Gen Z's language. It accepts conversations, not keywords. 2.3% of all retail traffic is now coming from AI referrals, and that was near zero a year ago. So it's increasing significantly. And AI revenue per visit has surged 254% year to date. And AI referrals convert at 11.4% versus 5.3%. That's an important stat. So 11.4% versus 5.3% for organic searches rather than coming from AI. So it is double the conversion rate if they've come from an AI, which shows they're a lot further down the funnel, a lot more ready to convert. And it's not just a conversion. AI referred visitors are higher quality across the board. They spend longer on site. They're 45% longer time per visit for AI referred users. There's a 33% lower bounce rate for AI referrals, and a 13% they visit 13% more pages when they've been referred by the AI. So they're not just window shoppers. AI is actually sending you visitors who already know that they need your product. So the question is kind of how you handle that. Now, here's an example of kind of the question. So I've got a puncture on my road bike. What do I need to fix it? And it's got, here's the essential kit you need. So you're going to need all these things. You're going to need some tire levers and a pump and spare in a tube and multi tools and that sort of thing. It's got photos. It's got guides. It's got a quick repair process. It's got checks to make sure certain things are done right. But it's not necessarily the guidance that your team would give. And it's not necessarily recommending your products. In fact, in this one, it's not recommending any particular products other than maybe you can see a product in the image there. So yeah, so you want to get to the point where these AIs, one, they're recommending your products for simple purchases. So your more commodity items, you want those to be able to be bought directly in the chat. But then we need to serve the customer better on our site so that they're more willing to come back to our site directly next time rather than going to the AI for this sort of problem. So if they know that you sell mountain bikes and all mountain bike gear, for example, if you've got an experience that is better than ChatGPT at solving mountain bike related issues, then they're going to come straight to you because they had a great experience last time, and then users will come back for that great experience. So let's talk about the keyword playbook versus the conversational playbook. So 2016, we very much had these kind of breadcrumbs and menus and trees and filters and that sort of thing. And we learned, even back then, that menus that were too deep created friction for a purchase. And so you lose, I think it's something like 25% on every extra click that a user has to make. You lose 25% of the cohort that made it through the last clicks. It's a significant drop and a lot of friction that's being created from this approach. Whereas the new approach is very much ask anything, accept voice commands, have an AI assistant that's helpful, create personalized feeds, and even allow images, image search, search maybe with videos, search with documents, like all those extra pieces that actually make it really useful for the user. So the old way, it was very passive. It waited for your users. So I just want to see which one this is. It waited for your users but it was passive. It waited for your users to already know your product name. So you can't just read that intent. You don't understand when they put into the keyword search, my chain is rusty. Unless you've got that as a particular keyword match, your search isn't going to suggest the right products. You can't stop mistakes. You can't prevent it giving the wrong product defaults. And in conclusion, really, it's a passive catalog. You're not actively promoting the right products for the customer's needs. Whereas with a conversational playbook, it's very different. It's active. It's intercepting the user's problem. It's reading the user's intent. It's understanding what they hear. It's actively guiding them to a specific product, and even within your product lines, the right product from the products that you offer. So it's an active sales engine and giving the users the right product for their needs. And every zero result search you get is a missed opportunity, whether it's caused by spelling errors or unusual phrasing or unavailable inventory. These gaps, they often lead to like shopper drop off and lost revenue. And it's a gap that you need to make sure you keep a close eye on and fill if you want to maintain and grow that audience. So there's a bit of a language gap there, and Gen Z do speak in conversations, and your site is likely to respond in categories and use keywords. So yeah, if you're interested in this kind of topic and learning a bit more about how to actually go ahead around implementing these tactics, I'll drop in our newsletter in the chat again for anyone who missed it. So it's there for weekly breakdowns and tips like this on this and similar topics. But yeah, so let's dig into why your navigation structure itself is failing these users. So why that menu is failing. So you've got this kind of side by side. So in 2016, it was very much a different experience, and now it's all around kind of ask anything with the search bar. You've got that voice and text. You've got personalized feeds being fed to you based on behavior. And in the visual search, they're able to ask things like "Show me green sneakers from TikTok." Like it's a different kind of experience. And 91% of consumers experienced frustrating digital service issues in the past year. So it's a significant amount that are now finding websites to be quite full of friction, should we say, for checkout purposes. So they're starting to get used to this new experience of actually having voice and conversational experiences that give them exactly what they need when they need it. And they can follow up and they can delve into things in more detail. The old websites we built, they're not supporting that structure anymore. And we now need to rethink this around how we support those users better. So it's creating a lot of friction for the users. So they essentially, the users have a high intent when they're coming through to the site, and they're demanding better results from the websites that they're visiting. They're demanding a better experience, zero friction, being able to ask anything, get that same experience that they had with the AI on site. And if they don't start getting those experiences, they're just going to stay on the AIs. And we need to do something to kind of make sure we're transitioning them across. And this is very, very clear when you look at somebody like Amazon and the experience that they create, because they've created such a good personalized experience. It just keeps you going back. It's why they've done, one of the reasons they've done so well. Personalized experience, great customer service, kind of, you get next day delivery, easy returns, all those kind of things that you want from a retailer. So, and then each one of these is kind of a little bit more friction that essentially it causes a little bit more drop off in terms of your users who are successfully getting through to checkout. So extra menu taps. So if they're having to tap extra menu items in order to get through to the item they're looking for, if you've got that kind of multi-click navigation or filters and categories that you have to click through, if they're trying to get an answer to their challenge, if they're not able to get the answer as well as the products, you could very much be looking at abandoned journeys there. And each one of these is kind of a 25% drop off in terms of lost users from not being able to find the answers that they're looking for. What they're really looking for is the instant results. They're looking for that core content that they don't have to go looking for, but they can ask and get given. So no real browsing of a website. That age is lessening, shall we say? I don't think it's coming to an end, but it's definitely changing. It's less browsing and more serving the individuals who are arriving at your site. So Gen Z have an average attention span of 8 seconds, apparently, according to Pacific 54, for the initial content discovery, and that's probably very much fueled by the likes of TikTok and Instagram, and the kind of instant answers that they get, and like just swipe to the next item. So a 3-level navigation tree is going to burn through most of that before they've even found your product. And there are other things as well. So things like that's the keyword playbook. So the mobile interaction. So when they're actually using a mobile device, and this is a nice article I found on Medium here by this user. So when they're looking at a website on their mobile, you have to start thinking about things like the ergonomics now, especially with some of the larger phones, where it was fine a few years back when phones actually got a bit smaller, but now they're getting larger again. So larger screens, more kind of screen real estate. There are areas now that the thumbs can't reach, and they can't reach comfortably. And it's that kind of thing that causes, is the actual ergonomic challenges that cause friction towards getting to checkout. So it's rethinking the way that we build these mobile sites based on what's happening now. So when you've got a kind of 6.8-inch phone, it's very hard for somebody with smaller hands to reach certain areas of the screen, like the darker areas here. And you can see, kind of depending on the way they're holding the phone, left hand, right hand, or two hands together, kind of where they can reach easily. Now, most sites put the navigation menu up the top here, which in no way is ever easily accessible when you're on mobile. So it's over the top of the screen. It's kind of the inaccessible zone. It's hardest to reach with one thumb. So where should your CTAs be, and your search, and your if you have a navigation maybe think about repositioning it, it's probably down the bottom here somewhere. So you've kind of got this nice zone of kind of being able to search. And maybe even if you do leave the nav up there, having just the search in an area that's easy to reach. So don't put the search, hide the search in a nav up here, but put it in a hero that they can scroll to, or on page that in an area that they can scroll to easily, and actually be able to access straight away. So, and there is some stats around this. So there is an 86% mobile cart abandonment versus 70% on desktop. So there's a significant difference between the two, and part of that is due to connectivity. So it's things like making sure your site is fast on mobile as well. So looking at 4G and 3G. Because even if your site is okay on 4G, how does it perform on a lesser 4G connection, like when you're in a tunnel or on a train or in a kind of spotty area for reception? So the smaller weight your site is on mobile, the better experience they're going to have. And mobile users spend 2 minutes 21 seconds on average on a site versus 5 minutes and 13 seconds on desktop. So there's a big difference between the kind of time on site, and desktop converts at 4.8% on average versus mobile at 2.9%. So there's a 40% gap between the two. But it's worth noting that 62% of all web traffic is mobile. The majority of the traffic is being served still a desktop favoring experience on mobile. Yeah, most of the traffic is now mobile. So most sites are actually getting this wrong in the way that they're structured. So part of the gap it's ergonomic. It's your most important actions need to be accessible in the accessible part of the screen, not hidden up here out of the way. So yeah, so if they're not using the menu, how are they finding the products? And it is essentially they're asking the questions. They're saying, "Show me green sneakers from TikTok." They're using voice. They're using image search. 22% of the under 35s are using image search. 50% of searches are now voice activated. So you think of like the likes of Alexa and Siri, and even just when you're on Google, just clicking the search button, or using kind of the voice to text on your phone. 60% of Gen Z are find AI shopping attractive. Now, this is very interesting stat because this is basically this is the future. This is them saying to the AI, get my usual products. I want to get a new MacBook or something. Buy me a MacBook under $2,000. And it actually being able to go off and say, do that search itself and go and find from the various sources where that the best, most appropriate answer product for their requirements is. So you can actually have the AI go off and search for it themselves. So you got this multimodal search. That is essentially, it's the number one e-commerce search trend for 2026 is what everyone is now looking at. And yeah, this 22% of under 35s, it's a large number of just going straight to image for image search. And it's worth thinking about kind of how this is presented. Like this could be, I'm looking for this product that I already have. You just take a photo and you need to be able to answer that. It could be, I'm looking for something to go with this. So shoes to go with this dress, or jeans and shirt, or I'm looking for the right color paint for my car. I've got a scratch on my car, which here's my car. It's all of those different experiences that we need to now cater for. And I want to be clear on this, like AI only shopping is coming, and it's coming soon. And AI will be able to browse websites and purchase products based on the user's ask and preferences. It'll be fully automated. And the winners will be those websites who are informationally accessible to the LLMs, and they have comprehensive answers to the questions that the users are searching for. It's the sites who are fully connected, and in conjunction with this, those sites who demonstrate an exceptional AI-enabled experience they'll be the winners. So customer service and great customer service is always one. And embedded AI done right unlocks great customer service on site that will keep them coming back. So if you think like the Amazon example I gave, or Google or TikTok, all of them use AI-powered algorithms to give you what you're looking for. And that's why they do so well. And the thing is now you can too, because all of this is now accessible for most sites. most e-commerce sites today have fallen behind, I would say. And if you're like them, then your existing keyword search box probably doesn't understand conversations. It can't process images, and it doesn't accept voice. It's the digital equivalent of a shop assistant who only speaks one language that isn't the right language for the territory. But this is where you can have the first mover advantage. So the thing is, it's not new news. So why does this happen? Like we've known these techs have been around for a while. So why is this such a challenge for teams? Part of it is down to the fact that redesigning a navigation means restructuring information architecture. So it's an expensive rebuild essentially, if you look at it from that perspective. And most CMS platforms, they are built around category trees. They're not built as kind of graph databases or that sort of thing. It's a traditional way of structuring information. And the analytics that we have don't typically say that the user left because of bad navigation. It's very difficult to see why a user went up to the X button. They may have browsed the menu, they may have done a few other things. It was actually the browsing the menu that was the reason they left, but the fact they did other things, it seems like they bounced once they scrolled. Like, it's just they didn't find what they needed. Yeah, and senior leadership are millennials. They browse differently and they don't notice the problem. So it's a challenge that you have to overcome with your senior management for them to understand that actually times are changing. And whilst this may be the best way that you enjoy exploring a website, is not necessarily what the users are looking at. So we have to look at the data and you make actual justifications based on what their preferences are. So it's a conversation you have to have very carefully with the senior management to say this may not be the best approach. Yeah, the it works for desktop mindset when 62% of traffic is now mobile isn't necessarily a good way to structure it. So you have to look at your own analytics given. Like some sites are still probably experiencing higher levels of desktop traffic than mobile. So it's very much down to looking at your own analytics and making a justified decision from those. But yeah, with things like 55% average scroll depth, and which is down 7% year on year, attention is declining and sites aren't adapting. Like it's this kind of stat that shows that the behaviors are changing. So how do we fix it? And it is essential. We need this conversational playbook. So we need to be able to accept text, voice, image inputs, possibly even things like video and documents as well. We need natural language search. When we're taking text, it's not just keywords. I need to fix a puncture on my road bike. Like being able to ask those actual questions and not just get 200 results for puncture or puncture repair kit or something. Like they need to be able to ask the right question to get the answer that they're looking for. So ideally, you want to be giving them the one or two products that actually match their needs. So them being able to ask a question, ask another question to refine the results and get honed down on what that should be. The second area is around visual search. So uploading a TikTok screenshot, like getting an instant match to a product in your catalog, or actually kind of saying what goes with what. Like I said before, like shoes with jeans or something like that. And then, voice search. So there is the web speech API that you can use. It's already built into all the browsers. It's very easy to unlock with the existing tech that already exists in phones and computer browsers. So desktop browsers. It's very easy to integrate. You've got your it's all client side. There isn't any concern around kind of having biometric data stored or sending actual voice recordings to the sites. Essentially, it's all done on device, and it's simple to kind of integrate and take those voice commands and turn them into text. So it can be as simple as one of these buttons. Essentially, just it takes the voice and it inputs the text on the text bar. And things like QR codes and easy ways to kind of get access to that information. And then there's the AI version of this. So this is replacing the traditional menu with ask anything kind of commands. So, I mean, you go back to the Chat GPT example. So they don't really have a menu. They've got the kind of the past conversations. They've got the ability to start new chats and search and look at your images. Like, this is one of the world's biggest used sites, and they don't have a menu. All they have is this ask anything bar, and that's essentially where all the conversations start. So it's a very different experience, and it is giving the right answers to the user using the easiest possible methods. So yeah, some typical conversion data you can expect from this. So, or examples, AI powered search users convert at 3 times the rate. That's the Algolia stat. 15% of visitors use search, but they generate 45% of revenue on average. Search is underweighted as an avenue on average. 30 to 40% conversion rate lift you can get from adding visual search typically, and you get 49% sales growth by adding AI search and a 3 times market average conversion according to Algolia. And Staples, when they did this, so they added an AI assistant, they had an immediate 25% conversion boost. So if you want a simple stat, that's the the one to look at. So yeah, the Staples case study is a good one. And yeah, they had that immediate impact on their existing experience just by adding the AI assistant. So yeah, so visual search. This is essentially where the money is going. This is the big thing for 2026 that a lot of sites are adding. So it's projected to grow from 42 billion to 152 billion over the next few years. It's not experimental. This tech is now very much proven. We added it on K's. I've not got that example open, but I can show anybody who's interested. We had it on K's, so they had a prop search where you can search for products that are similar to other products and search by colors, by type, by era, all of those things that kind of enable and unlock a faster search and being able to design a set, because they do TV and film props, design a set for the particular show or movie. So yeah, it's very much a different way of searching, and you can think about kind of the personal assistant approach for just about anything, any other product, is very helpful. So, and the next thing is to essentially personalize by intent and not identity. This kind of we know who you are PII tracking is very creepy to most people, especially Gen Z. Even like the welcome back name is probably a little bit creepy for a lot of people. It's how did you know my name? Kind of, it's a bit odd. Analyzing the users, for example, telling them you're lying on your left side. Perhaps you'd like this kind of addition to your phone. Like, it's like, how do you know I'm lying on my left side? And when you look at it, it is actually quite easy to use the sensors in the phone to say which way the phone's leaning. So you'd be right a lot of the time, but it's just a bit weird. So don't do anything like that. But doing the things like showing me what's next. So based on the ad I came in on, based on my searches, building up a profile of the user over time and using that profile to then suggest best products to the user. So if they ask a question, guiding them to the products that solve their question. Perhaps they need more than one product. You can have dynamic areas on the site to suggest stuff. You can add stuff as suggestions in the chat. You can push stuff in the search rankings based on the questions they asked and their past behavior. You get, called a single, and you get a 270% engagement increase when that personalization is driven. As long as you do it in a intentful and helpful way. Capture that intent, use their intent in a good way. So yes, personalization used to mean this kind of hello name. Yeah, it's identity-based personalization. It's creepy. What we want to do now is actually just give a good customer experience. Like the old customer service rep, they didn't need to know your name to recommend your product. They just needed to know your challenge and understand you and your preferences and what it is you're looking for to give you the answer that you need. So that's the future of personalization. In my opinion, it's the way things are headed. So it's not who are you, it's what do you want right now. and what's right for you. So yeah. So what do you need to build? So you need to build session-based product recommendations. So no login required, just capturing what's the user's looking at and updating the results in real time. You need a dynamic navigation that adapts to browsing behavior, maybe adding things like wish lists and stuff and making that kind of thing more prominent depending on their behaviors. You want an AI-based next best action or next best product prompts or area on the site. And you want to build up you don't want this to have them to have to fill out a form in order to get all of this information. You want to do progressive profiling, which is basically building up a picture over multiple visits and not one massive form. Yeah, when it's done well, you can look at a very large engagement increase, 217% is the example there from Single Grain, but only when it's helpful and not creepy. So this is a part where it starts getting a bit more difficult to integrate. So a lot of teams get stuck here. Things like the multimodal search, the intent-based personalization, they aren't just plug and play. They are easy if you know how, but they need the right data architecture. They need changes. They need engineering decisions. And whilst, yes, you're welcome kind of take this on internally, if you do want some help or just someone to just audit what you have already and tell you what's actually achievable, we can hop on a quick 30-minute call and do a quick assessment for a no obligation kind of discussion. And I'll drop the link to that in the chat if that is useful. Right, but moving on to the architecture that makes all of this actually possible. So you want to make your architecture LLM-ready. This is this is kind of the next stage in the process. So it is it's creating. I've called it a sentient UI. It's not actually sentient, but it kind of feels that way once you start using the sites in this way, because it's a site that understands you and your preferences and updates in real time. So it feels like it's really actually getting to know you a bit like the way kind of the ChatGPTs and Geminis do when you start to get asking them to remember things and they're actually, this is perfect for me. You start to feel that when you're having those interactions. And this is how enterprise brands are going to bridge the gap between this legacy tech and the expectations of the 2026 user. It's not just Gen Z, it's everyone is moving into that. It's just Gen Z is a good cohort to look at to see how everyone is going to progress. So, and that's typically always been true in the way that they respond to tech. So so there's this 3-layer architecture. So first of all, you need a headless front end. The reason for this is you need it to be high speed. You need it to be AI driven. You need sections to be dynamic on the site, and you need it to not be based on your legacy CMS. So in terms of the categories and structure, because you want to make it conversational, and by having them separated, you can take full control over how that information is rendered on the front end. So yes, you need that. You then need a kind of middle layer, and it's quite easy to put these between the two. You can also you can even put it in front as well of the site, so you can have an AI layer bolted onto the site that kind of achieves many of these things as a kind of quick win. But yeah, having this layer that is essentially your shared data core. This is where you have all your kind of your structured data, your knowledge graphs. Is the bridge between that legacy system and the AI. It is where you can have things like the conversational search API. You can have the AI search layer that essentially you can still use your legacy CMS or e-commerce system, but you can have that layer in front that just gives those extra features. So you can have the image search, you can have the voice search, you can have the semantic natural language questions asking in a question-based format. So it's the web developer's role is very much changing from this kind of making sure that everything was built in nested navigation trees to actually giving everything in an LLM-ready context. So this is integrating schemas into the pages so that the AIs can easily understand what is on those pages. So tagging up products, tagging up images, tagging up organizations, like whatever it is you've got in your site, making sure that is accessible to the LLMs. And this enables them to really understand you, your brand, what you sell, your entire product catalog, And then they can draw all of that kind of voice, visual, and text search themselves. They can draw from your same data core, and you can too. You want to have an AI on site that's trained on your products and your policies and your expertise and your customer service, essentially, so that it's able to give a better answer than the LLMs would give. And yeah, but you want to make sure that the external LLMs can read your structured data, because that then earns you the citations that drive drive traffic to your products on your site. So is that using the LLMs as a discovery mechanism, the same way you would have used Google or Bing or such, the search engines. So legacy SEO was very much around, kind of pre-AI was very much around getting keywords and backlinks and static menus and basic crawlers. In 2026 is very much around AI agent navigation, the structured content for the LLMs, and having flawless data schema. And there is a large part of this I've not written here that is very much around being an authority. So this is having comprehensive content designed on topic, answer your customers' questions, which you can capture through your Ask Anything search that you're going to add to your website. And then, yeah, it's there's a nice quote here from Digital Commerce 360. So they said e-commerce faces a structural reckoning in 2026. The brands that restructure their data for AI will win. It's very much true. You got the chance now to be one of the early movers on this. It's pretty clear this is the way things are headed. It's worth considering. So let's move on to the next. Quick audit you can do yourself on your site in a few minutes is to basically say, you go onto your mobile, look at your website. Can you easily navigate that phone with one hand, that website with one hand? So can you browse around your site? Can you add products? Can you go to checkout? Like, what does that process look like when you're using it? Only using one hand. You think a lot of people are on mobile now. They're going to be on a bus, holding onto a pole, whatever it is, walking down the road with a bag in their hand. Like, it's those kind of scenarios where they're using mobile. They may be cooking their dinner whilst holding their phone. It's the same kind of thing. Like, where we want them to be able to browse that site easily. So there's a quick search or experience to check there. Then you've got your search. So can your customer find any product without actually opening a menu? So you want to have that search direct center. They can click on it. They can type in their question. Can they find the answer? And yeah, and a good one to also look at there is how many zero searches do you get? So when you're searching for the products, how many times did you end up with zero, and kind of reduce those? That's a very quick win that can kind of help you close some sales a little bit faster. And then LLM-ready data. So this is more a question for your dev team, but how well can an AI assistant understand your page? What schema appears? There are schema checkers you can run your URLs through to kind of see how well they understand. That's one of the things we kind of look at when we're assessing websites. So if you answer no to any of these, then you know where to start. Yeah, it's an easy win. Yeah, so just show an example of where this has been done well. Here's a site that we built for direct ferries that we're particularly proud of. It's a conversational search experience. Had essentially, if you look at booking ferries, it's actually quite complex in terms of the number of options that are available, and this is due to all of the vehicles and the routes and the different options available to you when you're booking a ferry. So you've got a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can do. But when you're trying to do this yourself on a website, you've only got a few fields to kind of book a ferry. And if you want to do, no, can I take my dog? Can I take a trailer? Can I take a roof rack? All of those kind of questions, you have to go and search through FAQs and such in order to find the data traditionally. What we did here with them, and this is great, is essentially we built this interactive chat experience where essentially we enabled the user to say, like, I want to travel from London to Paris. I've pre-filled this one. So I want to travel from London to Paris. It's given an answer. It's shown all the routes in order to get to Paris. So yeah, you can easily see this is a map that they added to this conversational experience. And then, yeah, once you've kind of picked your London to Paris, you say, right, I want to do the New Haven route. Got 2 people in a car. If any details it doesn't have, it's going to ask you for those things. For example, it's saying, when do you want to travel? You say next Friday. It says, great. So you're looking to travel Friday, 27th February from New Haven for 2 people in a car. Is this a one-way or return trip? One way. So it's asking those questions to get the information, to get the answers it needs, and it's giving you the routes and enabling you to check out. All within that conversation. And you can ask those follow-up questions. You can say, can I take my dog on the ferry? What's the cheapest ferry? You can start really asking those comprehensive questions that give the answers to the questions that those users have. So it's a very interesting thing. We ingested a lot of data in order to get this up and running, but it was set up within, I think it was about 2 months or so. Through 3 months. So yeah, it's a focused use case for one customer. You can see how this can be applied to just about any site. And one thing you'll notice is we've moved away from the typical kind of chat experience you would get in the lower corner here, where you kind of open a pop-up chat. There's a lot of negative sentiment associated with these chats because for a long time they were very bad. And they were fed by decision tree style chat experiences, whereas now we can have this agentic experience where it's the AI that's deciding what tool to use. This is integrating with an API. It decides when it needs to do that. It decides when it needs to ask more questions. We just guide it and we tell it what it has the capabilities to do. And we give it those instructions that essentially enable it to have an experience like this, fully integrated into a site. So yes, that's the end of the presentation. I've got a few quick wins that you can do. So let's just bring me up. There we go. So first thing is, move your search bar to the thumb zone. That's a quick win. Typically, a team can probably do that in around about 1 to 2 days. So just repositioning where the search is itself on mobile. So that's ergonomic accessibility for kind of just under 63% of your traffic. You've got adding natural language search to your existing search. That can be done in sort of 4 weeks or so. So that enables you then to capture intent, to reduce your 0 result searches. You've got your mobile CTA placements. So where can they click? So kind of helping them to kind of get through to check out a lot easier. So that will reduce that kind of 86% mobile cart abandonment. Add your structured data. That's around about kind of 2 to 3 weeks for most sites. So this is going through all of the products, all of the pages, the organization, and actually making the site readable for the LLMs and earning those AI citations. Obviously, there is a large part of that is content as well, and PR and how your brand is perceived by the LLMs, but that goes hand in hand with this. And then looking at your page speed, so making sure it's under 3 seconds on mobile, and that will get you on average kind of a 4% conversion gain per second saved. It's a big increase, and makes a big impact. For the bigger investments, that's where you can start looking at things like the AI-powered multimodal search. It's a kind of 15K plus investment. You're looking around about 4 to 8 weeks to add something like that, and you've got a 3x conversion expected from an AI-based search. But don't forget, you're getting 45% of revenue is coming from that 15% of users on average that are using search. So it's a large portion of your audience. So you can have a big impact with adding those things, especially visual search, which you can do typically around about a 6-week project. You can look at kind of a 30 to 40% conversion rate lift on average. You've got 22% of under 35s are already using it and happy to use it. So if your audience is if your audience is Gen Z, or Gen Z is part of your audience, then that is something to consider. And then you've got intent-based personalization engines. So this is actually where you're changing the site in real time, changing the search, changing areas like dynamic areas of the site to feed product recommendations to the users, not based on things that they bought, but based on their intent. So the challenges they're trying to solve when they're searching. So it's capturing what that is and then showing them the right information. And that's around about kind of an 8-week project on average. And then, obviously you need a headless front end for that kind of fully dynamic approach. That is a larger web build. So that depends completely on your architecture. and enabling that AI native user experience. And then voice navigation. So this is, again, a smaller one. So you can typically look in kind of 4 weeks or so. 50% of searches are now voice activated. So that's your justification for the board on integrating voice on average and seeing the impact that could have on your website. So some Q&A. So our site has thousands of products. Can AI search really handle that scale? AI search handles scale better than menus. That's kind of the point. There's no one can browse 10,000 products in a category tree. Natural language search, it scales infinitely. So you can keep asking questions. You can filter down those products. You're using a graph database. So on the back end, typically, so you're able to explore the tree around a certain topic. There's not so much data being returned typically on average. So you can have a lot of products and not worry too much about the scale of thousands of products, because the result set is a lot more honed and refined. And they can refine it further if you design the UI in the right way. Yeah, so Algolia, Covio, similar platforms, our custom built platform, which we'll be releasing very soon, can handle millions of SKUs. So yeah, it's a large volume of products that can be fed through these systems. And how do we measure whether Gen Z are actually bouncing because of navigation? So yeah, you want to track your usage rate. Obviously the benchmark was 15% of visitors. So compare the conversion rate for searches versus the browsers. So the benchmark is kind of a 2.6 times difference. And monitor those zero result searches as a kind of content gap signal. So you can see if you've got any searches that end up with zero answers, then you need a product or a piece of content to kind of fill that gap. And then A/B test that by surfacing search more prominently on a segment and kind of measuring that impact is a good way to test. In terms of a minimal viable investment to test the conversational search, so I'll start with upgrading your existing search to natural language, or having kind of the semantic search in there. That is typically kind of a 15 to 25K project, so 4 to 6 weeks. It's measurable typically within about 60 days. If your search users already converted ticks, then yeah, making the search smarter compounds that advantage. So should you remove the menu entirely or keep it as a fallback? I say don't remove it overnight, because you're still likely providing the website to millennials and such. I'd layer the conversational search on top of the existing navigation and put it front and center, because that's now what people are getting used to. And let the data tell you when the menus become redundant. So track that kind of the first click on menu. And when it reduces down enough, then you can probably remove it then. But yeah, once you start putting the search front and center, you will find that menu usage drops off significantly. So yeah, only do it when ready, really. And does an AI drive impulse purchases and returns? It's the opposite. So Adobe's November 2025 consumer survey found that 68% of shoppers who used AI for a purchase were less likely to return the products and 65% felt more confident in what they bought. AI-assisted purchases are basically better informed purchases. They're further down the funnel, so the research has been done off-site. And so when they get to your site, they already know it's the right product. A lot of that research should be fed by your own content, ideally. That is, that's essentially the experience. They're just far more ready to purchase, far better informed. So to recap, 43% of Gen Z start their product searches on TikTok. 70% are using AI tools for shopping. 77% discover products through the platform, TikTok platform. They're not going to browse your category menu. It's a friction point for them. Traffic from AI assistants to retail sites surged 4,700% year over year in 2025. And that traffic is arriving at sites built for keyword researchers, not conversational discoverers. So we need to rethink the way that we're building our sites, because those AI referrals are converting at 11% versus the 5.3% for organic referrals. If the site only speaks the traditional keyword-based language when they arrive, it's not going to convert as well. When they do convert through AI, the results are better across the board. 65% say they're more confident in their purchase, 68% are less likely to return the product, and 81% report an improved shopping experience. Users form an opinion of your site in about 50 milliseconds. 88% won't come back after they've had a bad experience. So your navigation menu, the foundational UI element for most e-commerce sites, was built for a generation that browsed, but the generation that will be spending the most money online for the next 30 years doesn't browse, they discover. So build for conversations, not categories. Start with search, personalize by intent, and make your data LLM ready. And don't boil the ocean. Start with a spark. You can do this in phases and work your way through. So where do you go from here? So if you'd like to book one of our audits, I'll drop that link in the chat again for anyone who missed it. There we go. And we'll assess your site's Gen Z readiness, your search navigation, mobile experience, data architecture. There's no charge, but it is application only. So yeah, if you're applicable, then we'll run through that with you on a quick call, understand your intentions and what your goals are. And then if you're not quite ready for that, but you did enjoy this, then every week we break down topics like this for D2C brands with practical, strategic free advice. I'll drop the link to that in the chat as well, so you can sign up there to our mailing list. And yeah, there's some great content that we try to put out every week in there for tactical advice for the modern age of e-commerce and D2C. So yeah, thank you everyone, and I will see you next week.